These clips were actually right before Rue and I went to Vegas. This video is just going to show a couple of the basics I cover with almost every horse, which is round penning, lunging, the start of working at Liberty, and some mark training. I'm going to try to explain a lot of the reasoning for everything. The video is good, but the audio and what I say in it is also pretty important. This clip I'm actually recording right now in March, but about half of the audio I recorded like back in November. So sorry for sounding super monotone in it. I had everything typed up on a sheet and I was reading directly from that. It might sound a little bit weird, but hopefully it's still helpful and has some meaning to it. Something I do with a lot of horses is what I call pole releases. I use it when teaching a bunch of different tricks. I use it when starting a horse under saddle. I use it with a tense horse. It's really to kind of kickstart that relaxation through the whole body. Usually if you can get the head to be soft, the rest of the body should follow. Hopefully in the future I'll make more of an in-depth video on this, but I just kind of wanted to explain why I was releasing her pole here. I just do this with a lot of horses. As you can see, Rue already understands that when I point in the direction she's already traveling to move to a faster gait. You can see that she doesn't travel right on the rail, but that's fine because I haven't set a firm circle distance yet. I have a small bubble I don't want her to come into, but right now there's a large margin I'm okay with her being in. For some horses, it's hard to canter in the round pen. It can be because of the size or just because they don't understand the concept of going forward. Some of them need to work on balance, and all of that boils down to body control and sometimes building muscle. To help your horse get the canter, sequence your cues again. You can see that I pointed with Rue, she didn't get it, so I added my verbal cue and she picked it up. As soon as she picked it up, I relaxed my body. I don't want to continuously push her once she already goes into the canter. At the beginning, 1 or 2 strides is enough. I allow them to drop back down or sometimes even draw in for the first few times they're learning to pick up the canter. Eventually I want to be able to ask them and have them hold it until I give them another cue. In order for them to learn, they need some sort of reward to know they're on the right track. Once they understand to pick up the canter, you can continue to encourage them forward in a few more strides. The clearer and more consistent you are in your body language, the sooner they'll be able to understand you. For Rue, at this point in her training, she knows how to pick up the canter and hold it at least a full circle around the pen. In this clip, she seems to need firm corrections or reminders, so I don't reward her until she holds it half a circle, and then I allow her to have a big release. When I gave her a verbal cue with body language to drop our energy down, it was too much. I'm not going to chase after her to get her back on that track. I'm actually going to slow down my energy so I can communicate clearly that no, I don't want her to come in or change directions. I just want a slower gait in the direction you were already traveling. She's asking a lot of questions, which is good, but it also means there's some confusion. Sometimes I may just use a verbal cue to increase the power and stride, but not change the gait. Here I'm gonna yield Rue's hindquarters to get her to face up, but I'm not going to back up, that way she doesn't draw in. She takes a couple steps there forward, but I really just wanted her to yield her hindquarters, stay on the rail, and then change direction. You can see I keep my energy at that low neutral position when I want her to stay at the gait she's already at. And I was able to increase her speed by putting my arm up. And now I'm going to ask for canter. You can see right after she's in the canter, I release my arm and let it lower. You saw she was a little bit questioning there in the canter. She turned in right away to me, so I made sure to keep her out on the rail, even if it was just at the trot. instead of me inviting her in and drawing her up to me, I'm going to have her stay on the rail because I know that type of energy that Rue has, and it's better for her if I have her keep her distance, but then I walk up to her to reward her. All this groundwork is great and can translate to under saddle. It will make your clues that much clearer and help build confidence in both you and your horse. You can see the lunging is very similar to the round penning. I ask with my finger first and then I give a vocal cue. As soon as she picks it up, I go back to my neutral position. So when I'm in my neutral position, I want my horse to hold the gait that I last asked them to be at. So I asked her to come down then, but she came down a little too much and wanted to face up, so you saw I did a really quick reminder with my hand asking her to go out. Right there, I asked her to yield her hindquarters, and she yielded her hindquarters, but then she walked forward into me, so my correction was to back her up back into place. The reason I used this backup method with Rue was because it was the safest way to back her up when I first got her. She's actually the only horse I've ever used the wiggling the rope method for backing up.
No, I'm just going through in my head how I'm going to edit.
So I asked again for her to yield her hindquarters, and she did not walk into me, so I did not back her up. Now I'm going to continue to yield her hindquarters. She's very soft, so I don't have to add much pressure. But pretty much what you want to do is direct all of your energy towards the hindquarters. And I'm looking for her hindquarters to cross over and step away, and her front to kind of stay planted. And a lot of people use this to get their horse to come back to them. They kind of use it as the last resort when the horse is acting up. I don't focus too much on it. I make sure my horse knows how to do it, but I don't overdo it, if that makes sense. I'm not constantly asking them to yield their hindquarters, but it is something that I want to cover with them and make sure they understand. I really like my horses to be soft on the line. You can know she's not pulling on it or anything. There's a good amount of slack in there. That's something that you develop over time, and you have to make sure that you're not constantly pulling and adding weight to the rope. If your horse is pulling out, it's better to do little bumps to get them back on track. You see, she came down pretty well just from my body language, and I might have had a vocal cue and said walk, but I work a lot on transitions, both up transitions and down transitions. Again, today she's doing a lot of checking in with me or asking, are you sure? I'm just going to give a bunch of gentle reminders, but still stay firm in what I'm asking. I'm not going to let her come in if she looks at me to come in without me asking her to. You have to decide what type of reward is best for your horse too. This mare likes a lot of scratches on her head. She likes me to be quiet and soft with her. None of these clips are full clips explaining how to round pen, how to lunge, how to start liberty. They're just little tidbits of things you can work on within those exercises, if that makes sense. Hopefully in the future I can make a how to round pen or how to lunge video, but I did want to show this footage because I think there are a couple ideas that Rue demonstrates very well that you could see and then maybe take away from it.
I guess I could film. I've never done this with her. I guess we could. You want to film some of this?
Sure. I mean, I already am.
Oh, you're still filming?
Yeah, I started a new one.
How much time does it say there?
So this is a good way to see how to start doing liberty and off the line work with a horse that already really wants to come at you. She initially was aggressive coming out of the wild and she wanted to come into me and at me. So getting a draw out of her is very easy. But I was very careful to do it until I knew that she knew where the boundaries were.
How's that dirt taste?
So this is actually my first time just drawing her up to me and asking her to come into my space and then rewarding her for coming right up to me. I've been pretty firm about keeping her away, me walking up to her and rewarding her. because she always did want to come into me, and I didn't want to keep encouraging that when she was trying to either bite me or trample me.
Yeah.
But at this point, I feel she's at a stage where it's safe to have her come in. So you can see right there, I just used my whip to block her nose out, and now I'm backing up to get her attention after she started veering off. Good, so you can see the first thing I do is I just walk around with them drawing up to me. She's got a pretty good draw. And when she starts going off, I change the path I'm walking in.
Yeah. Like when I backed up to release her, she came in.
I'm gonna invite her to come in again. You can see this horse has a really good draw. But you can see she still has a little bit of attitude about it. Good. And it took very little to get her to trot up and into me. In fact, I don't even know if I was asking for it, but she did draw in, so I rewarded. Now I'm going to switch sides and have her draw up to my left shoulder. Again, I start backing up and changing directions to get her attention. You can see she gets distracted, but as soon as I back up, she wants to draw in. And for me, I know this horse, where some of these may seem like more aggressive advances from her, but I know at that stage with her, she was fine. That's just her personality. But she's definitely catching on really quick. And you can notice, most of the time I say to keep the whip parallel to the horse's barrel, but with her, because of her really strong energy, I keep it pointed more towards the ground. It's not up quite as firm or as strong. Good, and I back up to change the direction we're on, because you can see she's kind of more tracking on the rail rather than to me right now, and now she's back on me. Good. But you see how she has that little bit of outside bend at certain points? And I'm slowly starting to spiral back into a circle. There, I'm going to yield her hindquarters because she was getting distant and distracted and about to walk off the other direction. When I started working with Roulette, as you saw, I had to use an approach I had not used before with any Mustang. Now, when this video was shot at about 5 or 6 weeks in, we're able to safely work off the line and the communication is pretty clear. I always try to outline my goals when I'm with my horse. All of it boils down to body control. Am I able to effectively ask my horse where and what body part to move? I need to be able to get changes of direction, speed control, distance control, and a draw. Those are the 4 main things I focus on. When I start in the pen, I set my horse loose and either send her off at a walk or direct my body language if she starts walking on her own. I always start at the walk because it's just as an important gait as the rest. And for me, when I'm starting colts, I need them to think the round pen is not just for fast-moving exercises and that they can feel comfortable standing still or moving at the walk. Okay, and the last thing I'm going to talk about in this video is mark training. First thing I do is just get the horse to step up on the mark with both front feet. Clearly, Roulette and I had not worked on this in a while, and we needed a little bit of a refresher. I never fully mark trained her, but we did start on it. It had been a while since we did it. So I use the whip to block each shoulder and keep her funneled in to step up onto the mark. Again, I'm just asking for those front 2 feet to come up. Now, if you want to watch a full video on mark training and how to start mark training your horse, I do have a how-to video out. I will put the link in the description of this video. The first thing is just getting those front feet on the mark and getting your horse comfortable standing on the mark. You always back your horse off. And then get them to move around the mark. That way the mark is the place of rest and they're more likely to be drawn to it and want to come onto it. This is a good exercise too for creating a soft horse on the lunge and also creating that draw. I'm not going to talk about all the steps because again I have that how-to video and I might make another how-to video on it, like a part 2 to it. So she wanted to walk around it there, so I'm just going to back her up to correct her and ask her to walk back on. I don't want my horse to walk around the mark and get confused about walking on it. They have to get on it from the same side. They have to get on it from the side that I initially asked them to get on it from. I won't let them dance around it. I'll back them up until they get on from that side. And again, a lot of mark training is just standing on the mark. You can tell she already doesn't really want to get off it there. She started to remember what mark training was, even though we hadn't done it in a while. That usually happens after they learn it. They want to stay on the mark because they know that's where they get to rest. Roulette, she has a very strong energy, but she isn't very high energy. She likes going slow and lazy and conserving her energy. So she's getting a little bit confused about the initial step up. I'm going to see if I can keep my distance but still funnel her on. Notice how I'm not letting her walk to that other side. There we go. So part of the issue for this is I just worked on Liberty and having her draw up, so she's a little bit confused about the mark being there. And I could have easily just not included this clip, but I did want to show you guys that not everything always goes perfectly. You've seen I've had to make a correction almost every time I've asked her to get on the mark this time. But I'm very firm in which side I let her get on from. And it's not like I always have to pick that exact side, it's just whichever side I ask her that time. I'm not going to let her walk around to the other side of the mark to step on it. I don't know the best way to describe this. Hopefully you guys know what I mean. And the mark is pretty useful. I use it with all my Mustangs. I actually have them learn how to step onto a mark before any other obstacle or trailer loading. Even though it's only a couple inches off the ground, it really helps horses learn how to step onto things, and usually they can conquer almost any trailer or obstacle after they learn the mark. So there, she was moving way too much, so I took the mark back and I was like, nope, you have to go back out. Unfortunately, my camera died before I got to show you the end of the session, but she did get on the mark successfully, very fluently, probably about 4 or 5 times before we ended this session. Hopefully this video was helpful to some of you. If you have any video ideas, please comment them below. Let me know if you thought of this one. If you like this video, please give it a like and subscribe for future content. Thank you for watching.